Commander Park Hyun stood at the main viewing window of Kepler Station and watched 12 alien warships move into attack positions around his home. The massive ships looked like angry metal sharks swimming through the black ocean of space, their hulls glowing with the deadly light of charging weapons. Each ship was twice the size of anything humans had ever built, and their plasma cannons could melt through station armor like hot knives through butter. Park wiped sweat from his forehead and turned back to the command center where his crew worked frantically at their stations. Red warning lights flashed across every screen, and the air hummed with tension. Dr. Kim Nari looked up from her science station with worry in her dark eyes. Lieutenant Choi Dae kept trying to reach the nearest human fleet on his communications array, but shook his head each time he failed to get through. Engineer Yoon Tae ran between computer terminals checking defensive systems that everyone knew would not be enough. The Viridian hegemony had given them 24 hours to surrender and evacuate all humans from this entire sector of space. Park knew this was impossible. Kepler Station housed 50,000 people, including thousands of families with children. Mining crews worked on nearby asteroids, and research teams studied alien artifacts on 3 different planets. Even if they had enough ships to carry everyone away, which they did not, the evacuation would take weeks. Park had spent 30 years in the human space navy fighting in wars across the galaxy. He had seen plasma fire melt entire battleships and watched good soldiers die screaming in the cold vacuum of space. But he had never faced odds like this. The Viridians were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless killers who showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. Their technology was centuries ahead of human weapons, and their soldiers were bred for war from birth. The commander walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. His uniform felt tight around his chest, and his hands shook slightly as he reached for the communication controls. Around him, his crew continued their desperate work, but everyone knew the truth. They were going to die or surrender, and either choice meant the end of human presence in this region of space. Dr. Kim Nari approached his chair carrying a data tablet. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes who had spent her career studying alien biology and technology. Her research had helped humans understand dozens of alien species, but the Viridians remained a mystery. "Commander, I have been studying their energy signatures," she said quietly. "Their weapons are charging to full power. If they fire at us with everything they have, our shields will last maybe 30 seconds. Park nodded grimly. He had expected this news, but hearing it still felt like a punch to the stomach. "How long until they reach full charge?" he asked. 6 hours at most," Nari replied. "Maybe less if they decide to rush the process." Lieutenant Choi Dae suddenly stood up from his station with excitement on his face. "Commander, I am getting a response from Admiral Morrison's fleet," he announced. "They received our distress signal and are coming at maximum speed." Hope flickered in Park's chest for a moment. Admiral Morrison commanded the largest human battle group in this part of the galaxy. His ships were modern, and his crews were experienced veterans of many conflicts. "How long until they arrive?" Park asked. Choi's face fell as he read the response. 6 days, sir. They are pushing their engines beyond safe limits, but they cannot get here any faster." The hope died in Park's chest as quickly as it had appeared. 6 days was far too long. The Viridians would attack long before human reinforcements could arrive. Park looked around at his crew and saw the same realization on their faces. They were alone and outgunned with no way to escape. Engineer Yoon Tae called out from his station across the room. "Commander, the Viridians are moving into final attack formation. Their lead ship is broadcasting on all frequencies." "Put it on the main screen," Park ordered. The viewer flickered and showed the bridge of the lead Viridian ship. The alien commander was tall and thin with pale skin that looked almost transparent. His eyes were large and completely black without any visible pupils. When he spoke, his voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. "Human commander of this station," the alien said, "you have 6 hours remaining to begin evacuation of all human settlements in this sector. Any humans found here after our deadline will be destroyed along with your pathetic station. We do not wish to waste ammunition on such weak targets, but we will do what is necessary to claim this territory for the hegemony." The transmission ended, and the screen went black. Park stared at the empty display for a long moment while his crew waited for orders. He thought about the children in the station schools and the families living in residential sectors. He thought about the researchers on distant planets who did not even know danger was coming. He thought about 30 years of faithful service to humanity and wondered if this was how his career would end. "Sir," Dr. Nari said softly, "perhaps we should consider evacuation. Even a partial evacuation would save some lives." Park turned to look at her. "Doctor, we have transport ships for maybe 5,000 people. That leaves 45,000 who would have to stay behind. How do we choose who lives and who dies?" Nari had no answer for this question. None of them did. The next few hours passed slowly as the crew monitored Viridian movements and tried desperately to find some solution to their impossible situation. The alien ships moved closer to the station, and their weapons continued charging. Several times, Park considered ordering his few defensive platforms to open fire, but he knew it would only anger the Viridians without causing any real damage. As the deadline approached, Park made the hardest decision of his military career. He would have to surrender to save civilian lives. The Viridians might kill him and his crew, but they usually allowed non-military personnel to leave peacefully. It was not the heroic last stand he had always imagined, but sometimes survival was more important than glory. He was reaching for the communication controls to contact the Viridian commander when Lieutenant Choi suddenly jerked upright at his station. "Commander, I am detecting a new contact on long-range sensors," he announced with confusion in his voice. "Another Viridian ship?" Park asked wearily. "No, sir. The signature reads as human, but it does not match anything in our database. It is approaching at incredible speed from the edge of the system." Park felt a spark of curiosity despite their desperate situation. "How fast is incredible?" Choi checked his readings twice before answering. "Sir, this ship is traveling at speeds that should be impossible. It will reach us in 12 minutes. Dr. Nari hurried to her science station to confirm the readings. "Commander, these numbers cannot be correct. No human ship can travel this fast. No ship of any species can travel this fast." On the main viewer, the Viridian fleet continued its slow approach toward the station. Their weapons were almost fully charged, and their commander was probably preparing to demand Park's final answer. But somewhere in the darkness, beyond the system's edge, a mysterious human ship was racing toward them at impossible speed. Park gripped the arms of his command chair and watched the sensors as the unknown contact grew closer. In a few minutes, he would learn whether this strange arrival meant salvation or simply another witness to their destruction. The unknown ship dropped out of what looked like a fold in space itself, just beyond the outer sensor range of Kepler Station. Commander Park Hyun stared at the main viewer as reality seemed to bend and twist around the arriving vessel before snapping back to normal. The ship that emerged was unlike anything he had ever seen in 30 years of military service. Dr. Kim Nari gasped as her instruments tried to process what they were detecting. "Commander, this vessel is massive," she reported with amazement in her voice. "It is at least 3 times larger than the biggest Viridian battlecruiser, but my sensors are having trouble getting accurate readings. The ship seems to be bending light around its hull." Lieutenant Choi Day worked frantically at his communication station, trying to establish contact with the mysterious vessel. "Sir, I am not receiving any standard identification signals. The ship is not responding to any of our hailing frequencies." Engineer Yoon Tae looked up from his engineering console with confusion written across his face. "Commander, the energy readings from this ship are impossible. My instruments say it is generating more power than our entire station uses in a year. But the readings keep changing as if the ship exists in multiple states at the same time." Park studied the image on the main screen as the unknown vessel approached. Their position. The ship had a sleek design that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Its hull was dark but not completely black. Instead, it appeared to absorb light in ways that made it difficult to focus on. Strange patterns of energy moved across its surface like living circuits of blue and silver fire. "Sir, I am getting a transmission," Choi announced suddenly. "Audio only, and it is coming through on command frequencies that I have never seen before." "Put it through," Park ordered. A calm male voice filled the command center, speaking perfect Korean with an accent Park could not identify. "Kepler Station. This is Captain Lee Woo of the HSS Retribution. Stand down your defensive systems and prepare to evacuate non-essential personnel. This situation will be resolved in 4 minutes." The crew exchanged glances of amazement and confusion. Park leaned forward in his command chair. Captain Lee, this is Commander Park Hyun. Your vessel is not in our fleet registry and your access codes are classified beyond my clearance level. Please identify yourself and explain your intentions. There was a brief pause before Captain Lee responded. Commander Park, my clearance comes from Admiral Song Hana of Strategic Operations. I am here to resolve the Viridian threat to this station. You have 3 minutes and 40 seconds to move your people to safety. Park felt his heart racing as he tried to understand what was happening. No. Admiral Song Hana existed in the human fleet command structure, and no human ship possessed the technology to travel as fast as the Retribution had arrived. Captain, you are facing 12 Viridian battlecruisers with weapons that can destroy this entire station. How do you plan to resolve this threat with a single ship? 12 ships, Captain Lee replied with what sounded like mild interest. Noted. 3 minutes and 15 seconds remaining, Commander. Dr. Nari approached Park's chair carrying her data tablet. Sir, I have been analyzing the Retribution since it arrived. The ship appears to be phasing in and out of normal spacetime. My instruments detect it clearly one moment and then it almost disappears the next. This technology is beyond anything humans have developed. On the main viewer, the Viridian fleet had noticed the arrival of the unknown human ship. The alien vessels began changing their formation and moving to surround both Kepler Station and the Retribution. Warning signals flashed across the command center displays as Viridian weapons locked onto the new target. Lieutenant Choi received an incoming transmission from the lead Viridian ship. Commander, the Viridian commander is demanding to speak. With you immediately. Put him through, Park said grimly. The pale face of the Viridian commander appeared on the screen again. His black eyes seemed to stare directly through Park as he spoke in his harsh, metallic voice. Human commander, order your warship to surrender immediately, or we will destroy both vessels along with your station. You have brought this fate upon yourself by calling for military assistance. Park started to respond, but Captain Lee's voice cut through the communication channel. Viridian commander, you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds to withdraw from this system. Any hostile action taken against human installations or vessels will result in your immediate termination. The Viridian commander's face twisted with what might have been anger or amusement. Unknown human vessel, you are greatly outnumbered and outgunned. Our weapons technology is superior to anything your primitive species has developed. Surrender, now, and we may allow your crew to survive. Captain Lee's response was calm and matter-of-fact. I count 12 ships of Viridian design armed with standard plasma cannons and antimatter torpedoes. Your weapons technology is approximately 200 years behind current human military standards. You have 2 minutes remaining to comply. With withdrawal orders. Park stared at his communication panel in shock. Current human military standards were nowhere near advanced enough to face Viridian technology. The weapons Captain Lee described did not exist in any human arsenal he knew about. Either this mysterious captain was completely insane, or he possessed knowledge and technology that no human should have. The Viridian commander's image flickered with static before disappearing from the screen. Moments later, every alarm in the command center began screaming warnings as Viridian ships powered their weapons to full charge and began moving into attack formation. Sir, the Viridians are preparing to fire, Choi reported with panic in his voice. All 12 ships are targeting both us and the Retribution, Engineer Yoon Tae called out from his station. Commander, I am detecting massive energy buildups from the Viridian fleet. They are going to hit us with everything they have. Dr. Nari watched her science displays with growing amazement. Sir, the Retribution is not raising shields or powering weapons. The ship appears to be doing nothing to defend itself. Park grabbed his communication controls. Captain Lee, the Viridians are about to open fire. You need to raise your shields and prepare for combat. 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining, Captain Lee replied calmly. Please ensure your people are in safe positions, Commander. On the main viewer, the space between Kepler Station and the Viridian fleet began to fill with the bright glow of charging plasma weapons. 12 massive alien warships prepared to unleash enough firepower to reduce both human vessels to glowing debris. Park had seen such weapons in action before and knew that no amount of armor or shielding could withstand their combined assault. The Retribution continued to drift peacefully through space, showing no signs of concern about the approaching attack. Its strange hull continued to phase in and out of normal visibility, as if the ship existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. Energy patterns flowed across its surface in hypnotic waves of blue and silver light. 30 seconds until the Viridians reach firing position, Choi announced. Park made a decision that went against every instinct developed during his military career. Instead of ordering his own defensive systems to prepare for battle, he activated the station-wide communication system. All personnel, this is the commander. Move to emergency shelter positions immediately. Secure all loose equipment and prepare for possible combat maneuvers. Throughout Kepler Station, 50,000 people hurried to follow emergency procedures they had practiced but never expected to use. Parents grabbed their children and rushed to reinforced shelter areas. Engineers sealed blast doors and activated emergency power systems. Medical teams prepared trauma centers for casualties they hoped would never arrive. Sir, Viridian weapons are at full charge, Engineer Yoon reported. They will fire in 10 seconds. Dr. Nari stared at her instruments in fascination. Commander, I am detecting temporal distortions around the Retribution. Time itself appears to be bending near that ship. The first bright flashes of Viridian plasma fire lit up the darkness of space as 12 alien battlecruisers opened fire with every weapon they possessed. Streams of superheated energy and antimatter torpedoes raced toward their targets, carrying enough destructive power to crack planets. Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system one final time before the weapons reached their targets. 4 minutes begins now. The first wave of Viridian plasma fire streaked through space toward the HSS Retribution like bright spears of death. Commander Park Hyun gripped his command chair and waited for the inevitable explosion that would mark the destruction of the mysterious human ship. Instead, he watched in amazement as the plasma bolts passed harmlessly through empty space where the Retribution had been only moments before. Dr. Kim Nari stared at her science station displays with wide eyes full of disbelief. Commander, the ship is not there, she reported in a shaking voice. My sensors show the Retribution in multiple positions at the same time. It appears to be existing in several different locations simultaneously. Lieutenant Choi Dae worked frantically at his communication console, trying to track the impossible movements of the human warship. Sir, I am detecting the ship in at least 6 different positions. No, wait. Now it is in 4 positions. The readings keep changing faster than my instruments can process. Engineer Yoon Tae called out from his engineering station with panic and excitement mixed in his voice. Commander, my chronometers are malfunctioning. Time itself appears to be moving at different rates in different areas around the Retribution. What should be seconds of combat are registering as hours on some instruments and microseconds on others. Park watched the main viewer as more Viridian weapons fire filled the space around Kepler Station. Antimatter torpedoes exploded in brilliant flashes of light, but caused no damage to their intended target. The Retribution seemed to dance between the incoming attacks as if it knew exactly where each weapon would strike before the Viridians fired them. The mysterious human ship finally stopped its impossible movement and hung motionless in space directly between the Viridian fleet and Kepler Station. For the first time since the battle began, the Retribution appeared solid and real on all sensor displays. Its dark hull gleamed with patterns of blue energy that pulsed like a massive heartbeat. Sir, the Retribution is preparing to return fire, Dr. Nari announced with amazement. But I am not detecting any conventional weapons systems. The ship appears to be generating controlled gravitational fields of enormous power. The Viridian commander's image appeared on the main screen again. His pale face showed confusion and what might have been fear as he spoke to his own crew in the harsh Viridian language. Park could not understand the alien words, but the tone suggested panic and disbelief. Captain Lee's calm voice filled the command center of Kepler Station. Viridian vessels, you have ignored withdrawal orders and initiated hostile action against human installations. Your ships will now be removed from this system. The Retribution did not fire plasma cannons or launch missiles like a normal warship. Instead, the space around the first Viridian battlecruiser began to twist and bend as if reality itself was being folded like paper. The massive alien ship stretched and compressed as gravitational forces beyond human understanding took hold of its hull. Park watched in horror and fascination as the Viridian warship seemed to collapse in on itself. The vessel did not explode in a burst of fire and debris like ships destroyed by conventional weapons. Instead, it simply ceased to exist as if it had never been built. One moment, a powerful battlecruiser filled the space ahead of the Viridian formation, and the next moment there was only empty darkness. "Mother of God," Engineer Yoon whispered from his station. "That ship just disappeared completely. There is no wreckage, no energy signature, nothing at all." The remaining 11 Viridian ships broke formation and began evasive maneuvers as their commanders realized they faced technology beyond their understanding. Some vessels tried to flee toward the edge of the system, while others concentrated their fire on the Retribution with desperate fury. The human warship responded to their attacks, with the same impossible movement it had shown before. Plasma bolts and antimatter torpedoes passed through spaces the ship had occupied microseconds earlier. When Viridian weapons did manage to strike the Retribution's hull, they caused no visible damage and seemed to be absorbed harmlessly into the ship's strange energy patterns. Dr. Nari worked frantically to record everything her instruments detected during the impossible battle. "Commander, I am measuring gravitational distortions that should not be possible. The Retribution is somehow controlling the fundamental forces of space and time. This technology is centuries beyond anything humans have developed." A second Viridian battlecruiser suffered the same fate as the first. Space twisted around the alien vessel until it folded in on itself and vanished from existence. The ship's final transmission was a scream of terror from its commander before silence returned to that section of space. The battle continued for what felt like hours to the crew of Kepler Station, but Park's chronometer insisted that only 2 minutes had passed since Captain Lee announced the beginning of the 4-minute resolution. Time itself seemed to be playing tricks as they watched impossible technology reshape the very nature of reality around them. Lieutenant Choi received frantic communications from the remaining Viridian ships as their commanders tried to understand what was happening to their fleet. "Sir, the alien transmissions are full of panic. They are calling the Retribution a demon ship and begging their gods for protection." 3 more Viridian warships disappeared in rapid succession as the Retribution moved through their formation like a predator hunting prey. The massive human vessel showed no signs of strain or damage, despite facing the combined firepower of the most advanced alien fleet Park had ever encountered. Engineer Yoon stared at his instruments in amazement. "Commander, the Retribution's power output is still increasing. My readings suggest the ship is drawing energy from sources that do not exist in normal space. It is as if the vessel has access to unlimited power from multiple dimensions." The Viridian fleet commander made one final desperate attempt to rally his remaining ships for a coordinated assault on the mysterious human warship. 6 battlecruisers formed a tight formation and fired every weapon they possessed at the same target point where the Retribution would have to be according to their calculations. The human ship appeared exactly where the Viridians predicted, but their weapons had no effect. Plasma fire and antimatter explosions washed over the Retribution's hull like ocean waves breaking against a mountain. When the light faded, the mysterious vessel remained completely undamaged and began its response. This time, the gravitational distortions affected multiple Viridian ships simultaneously. Space folded and twisted around 4 battlecruisers at once, stretching them beyond the limits of their structural integrity before erasing them from existence. The remaining 2 alien vessels broke off their attack and began a desperate flight toward the edge of the solar system. Dr. Nari watched her chronometer tick past the 3-minute mark. "Commander, we have 1 minute remaining in Captain Lee's 4-minute timeline. Only 2 Viridian ships survive out of the original 12. The fleeing alien vessels pushed their engines beyond safe limits, trying to escape whatever technology the humans had unleashed against them. Their hulls glowed red-hot from the strain, and their plasma trails stretched behind them like the tails of fleeing comets. The Retribution did not pursue the escaping ships in any conventional sense. Instead, the mysterious human warship seemed to reach across space itself and grab the fleeing vessels with invisible hands of twisted gravity. Both Viridian battlecruisers found themselves pulled backward through space despite their engines running at maximum power. Park watched in amazement as the 2 alien ships were dragged back to their original positions near Kepler Station. The Viridian crews screamed their terror over open communication channels as they realized no amount of speed or distance could save them from the impossible technology they faced. The final Viridian commander appeared on the main screen one last time. His pale face was twisted with fear, and his black eyes showed the madness of someone who had seen things beyond comprehension. "What are you?" he screamed at the retribution. "What manner of demons have the humans become?" Captain Lee's response was delivered in the same calm tone he had used throughout the entire impossible battle. "We are what we had to become to survive what you brought upon us." The last two Viridian battlecruisers joined their 10 companions in non-existence as space folded around them one final time. Dr. Nari's chronometer showed exactly 4 minutes had passed since Captain Lee announced the beginning of the resolution. Where 12 massive alien warships had threatened Kepler Station with destruction, there was now only empty space and the dark silhouette of the mysterious human vessel. Perfect silence filled the command center as Park and his crew tried to process what they had witnessed. The most powerful alien fleet any of them had ever seen had been erased from existence by a single human ship using technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics themselves. The silence that followed the destruction of the Viridian fleet stretched across Kepler Station like a heavy blanket. Commander Park Hyun stared at the main viewer where 12 alien battlecruisers had been threatening his people only minutes before. Now there was nothing but empty space and the dark silhouette of the mysterious HSS Retribution floating peacefully among the stars. Dr. Kim Nari was the first to break the silence as she looked up from her science station with wonder and confusion in her eyes. "Commander, I have been scanning the areas where the Viridian ships were destroyed. There is no debris, no energy signatures, no trace that those vessels ever existed. It is as if they have been completely erased from reality itself." Lieutenant Choi Dae tried repeatedly to establish communication with the Retribution, but received only automated responses. "Sir, the ship is broadcasting a standard message on all frequencies. It says threat neutralized, sector secured, maintain standard operations. Captain Lee is not responding to direct hails." Engineer Yoon Tae shook his head as he studied his instruments. "Commander, I have been analyzing the energy readings from the battle. The technology we witnessed should not be possible according to everything we know about physics. The Retribution was manipulating gravitational fields with precision that requires understanding of forces we have not even discovered yet." Park stood up from his command chair and walked to the main viewing window. The Retribution was beginning to move away from Kepler Station with the same impossible grace it had shown during the battle. Strange energy patterns continued to flow across its hull like living lightning frozen in metal and glass. "Sir, I am detecting preparation signatures for spatial fold technology," Dr. Nari announced with excitement in her voice. "The ship is getting ready to leave the same way it arrived. Commander, we need to get answers before they disappear. The technology we witnessed could revolutionize human space defense." Park activated his communication controls and broadcast on all available frequencies. "Captain Lee, this is Commander Park Hyun requesting immediate conference. We need to understand what happened here and how your technology works. Please respond." For several long moments, there was no answer from the mysterious warship. Then Captain Lee's calm voice filled the command center with the same measured tone he had used throughout the crisis. "Commander Park, this communication channel is secured. You have 5 minutes for debriefing before we must depart." "Captain, what kind of ship is the Retribution?" Park asked immediately. "Your vessel does not appear in any human fleet registry, and your technology is beyond anything our scientists have developed. How did you know about the Viridian threat?" There was a pause before Captain Lee responded. "Commander, my ship operates under protocols classified far above your security clearance. What you witnessed today was necessary to prevent the complete destruction of human settlements in this sector. No further information can be provided at this time." Dr. Nari approached the communication console with desperate urgency. "Captain Lee, I am Dr. Kim Nari, Chief Science Officer of this station. The gravitational manipulation technology your ship demonstrated could advance human science by centuries. Please, we need to understand how these systems work." "Dr. Nari," Captain Lee replied with what sounded like recognition in his voice. "Your research into dimensional physics has been noted in our files. Continue your current work on quantum field manipulation. Humanity will need those discoveries in the coming years." Park felt a chill run down his spine at the captain's words. "What do you mean humanity will need those discoveries? Are there more threats coming?" How do you know about Dr. Nari's research when it is classified at the highest levels? The communication channel filled with static for a moment before Captain Lee's voice returned. Commander, the Viridian hegemony was conducting reconnaissance for a much larger invasion force. Your station and the surrounding colonies were selected as testing grounds for new weapons systems. The main invasion fleet will arrive in 18 months. Engineer Yun Tae looked up from his station with alarm. Sir, 18 months is not enough time to evacuate all human settlements in this region. We would need years to move everyone to safety. Captain Lee, Dr. Nari interrupted, if you have this information about future Viridian plans, you must help us prepare our defenses. The technology your ship demonstrated could protect all human colonies from alien invasion. Another pause filled the communication channel before a different voice joined the conversation. The new speaker was female with the authority of high command in her tone. Dr. Nari, this is Admiral Song Hana of Strategic Operations. The technology you witnessed today comes with dangers you cannot imagine. Every action we take in this timeline creates ripples that affect past and future events. Park stared at his communication panel in confusion. Admiral Song, there is no officer of that rank in the human fleet command structure. I have served in this Navy for 30 years, and I know every admiral in the service. Commander Park, Admiral Song replied, you know every admiral in your timeline's version of the human fleet. The HSS Retribution and her crew represent humanity from a different branch of history. We come from a future where Earth itself was destroyed by Viridian expansion 18 months after the attack on your station. The command center fell silent as Park and his crew tried to process this impossible information. Dr. Nari was the first to speak. You are saying you come from an alternate timeline where the Viridian invasion succeeded? Not alternate, Captain Lee interjected. Potential future. The timeline we come from is what happens if humanity faces the coming invasion with current technology levels. Our Earth was turned into a burned wasteland, and our colonies were enslaved or destroyed. The survivors retreated to distant systems and spent decades developing the technology necessary to fight back. Engineer Yun Tae asked, the question that was on everyone's mind. If you have this advanced technology, why not share it with us? We could prepare proper defenses and prevent the invasion from succeeding. Admiral Song's response carried sadness and frustration. Every time we intervene in past events, we risk creating paradoxes that could erase our own timeline from existence. The Retribution and ships like her exist outside normal space-time, specifically to avoid these complications. We can protect critical installations and personnel, but we cannot fundamentally change the course of history. Dr. Nari approached the communication console with scientific curiosity, overcoming her fear. Admiral, you mentioned my research into dimensional physics. If you come from the future, you must know whether my theories about quantum field manipulation are correct. Dr. Nari, your work on dimensional resonance becomes the foundation for human temporal technology, Admiral Song replied. But the path from your current research to practical applications requires discoveries that cannot be rushed. We are transmitting theoretical frameworks that will guide your future experiments. Use this information carefully. Park's communication console chimed as data began downloading from the Retribution. The files were encrypted with security protocols he had never seen before and contained scientific theories that were decades ahead of current human understanding. Captain Lee, Park said, if more Viridian ships are coming in 18 months, what can we do to prepare? Our defensive systems are completely inadequate against the technology we face today. Commander, the coming invasion will test humanity's ability to adapt and survive under impossible circumstances, Captain Lee replied. Your species has always found ways to overcome superior enemies through innovation and determination. Trust in those qualities and prepare your people for the greatest challenge they have ever faced. The energy patterns on the Retribution's hull began to intensify as the ship prepared for departure. Space around the mysterious vessel started to bend and twist as dimensional fold technology activated. Wait, Dr. Nari called out desperately. We need more information. How many ships are coming? What weapons will they use? How can we contact you if we need help? Admiral Song's voice carried finality as she responded. Doctor, we have already risked too much by intervening here. The temporal monitors will be tracking our activities, and further contact could expose our operations to enemy detection. Prepare your people. Trust in human ingenuity, and remember that survival sometimes requires becoming something more than what you were. The HSS Retribution began to fade from normal space as dimensional energies surrounded its hull. Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system one final time. "Commander Park, 18 months until the real war begins. Make them count." The mysterious warship vanished into a fold in space itself, leaving behind only empty darkness and 50,000 questions that would never be answered. Park stared at the spot where the Retribution had been and wondered if humanity would be ready for whatever was coming their way. 18 months later, Admiral Park Yun stood on the bridge of the HSS Defiance and watched through the main viewer as 1,200 Viridian warships approached the New Geneva system. The massive alien fleet stretched across space like a plague of metal locusts, their hulls bristling with weapons designed to crack planets and burn worlds. This was the real invasion that Captain Lee had warned them about, and humanity was as ready as they could possibly be. Dr. Kim Nari, now Chief Science Advisor to the human fleet, worked at her station, surrounded by displays showing impossible equations and energy readings that would have seemed like magic 18 months earlier. Her research into dimensional physics had advanced faster than anyone thought possible, guided by the theoretical frameworks transmitted by the mysterious Retribution. Human ships now carried crude versions of gravitational shields and temporal displacement systems. Lieutenant Choi Day, promoted to Fleet Communications Officer, coordinated between dozens of human vessels spread across 3 star systems. "Admiral, all ships report ready for engagement. The new defensive platforms around New Geneva are online, and the civilian evacuation is complete." Engineer Yoon Tae, now Chief Technology Officer for the entire human fleet, monitored the experimental systems that had been installed on every ship. "Sir, the dimensional resonance generators are functioning within acceptable parameters. We should be able to maintain temporal shielding for approximately 30 minutes of combat." Park studied the tactical display showing the approaching Viridian force. 18 months of desperate preparation had transformed human space defense from a collection of outdated patrol ships into something that might actually survive contact with advanced alien technology. Every available resource had been devoted to understanding and adapting the scientific principles demonstrated by the Retribution. The lead Viridian ship, a massive dreadnought 3 times larger than anything in their previous scouting force, broadcast a message on all frequencies. The alien commander's voice carried the absolute confidence of a species that had conquered half the galaxy. "Primitive humans, you have ignored our previous warnings and continued to infest systems that belong to the hegemony. Your pathetic defenses will be swept aside and your worlds will be claimed for our expansion." Park activated fleet-wide communications. "All ships, this is Admiral Park. Today we face an enemy that believes humanity is weak and primitive. 18 months ago they would have been correct. Today we show them what humans become when we are pushed too far. All vessels, engage at will." The space around New Geneva erupted into the largest battle in human history as both fleets opened fire simultaneously. Viridian plasma cannons lit up the darkness with streams of superheated energy, while human ships responded with gravitational, pulse weapons and quantum torpedoes that bent space around their targets. Dr. Nari watched her instruments with amazement as human technology performed beyond all expectations. "Admiral, the dimensional shields are deflecting most of the Viridian plasma fire. Our ships are taking damage, but nothing like what we would have suffered with conventional armor." The battle raged for hours as human vessels used hit and run, tactics learned from studying the Retribution's impossible movements. Ships would fade partially out of normal space, strike at Viridian formations, and disappear before enemy weapons could lock onto them. It was primitive compared to the technology demonstrated by Captain Lee's vessel, but it was enough to keep the human fleet in the fight. Engineer Yoon Tae reported steady updates on system performance. "Sir, we are losing ships, but the rate is much lower than predicted. The Viridians are having trouble targeting vessels using temporal displacement. Their weapons are designed for conventional space combat." Park watched as human ships worked together in coordinated strikes against the massive alien fleet. The HSS Courage folded space around itself and appeared directly behind a Viridian battlecruiser, delivering a full spread of quantum torpedoes, before vanishing again. The HSS Determination used gravitational manipulation to pull 2 enemy vessels together, causing them to collide in a brilliant explosion of twisted metal and plasma fire. The tide of battle began to turn as Viridian commanders realized they faced technology they did not understand. Human ships that should have been destroyed by direct plasma hits continued fighting with minimal damage. Weapons that should have struck their targets passed harmlessly through empty space as human vessels phased in and out of normal reality. Lieutenant, Choi received an urgent transmission on secured frequencies. Admiral, I am detecting a spatial fold signature at the edge of the system. Something big is coming through. Park felt his heart race as he recognized the energy patterns. Dr. Nari, is that what I think it is? Nari studied her readings with excitement and relief. Sir, it matches the dimensional fold technology used by the Retribution. Someone is coming to help us. The space at the edge of the New Geneva system twisted and folded as multiple ships emerged from dimensional folds. Park counted 5 vessels, each one bearing the same impossible design as the mysterious warship that had saved Kepler Station. The ships moved with the same fluid grace and carried the same reality-bending technology that had erased 12 Viridian vessels in 4 minutes. Captain Li Wu's familiar voice filled the bridge of the Defiance. Admiral Park, this is the HSS, Retribution. We are here to provide support for your defensive operations. Recommend you withdraw your ships to minimum safe distance. Captain Li, it is good to hear your voice again, Park replied with genuine warmth. Are there more of you now? Admiral, the Temporal Defense Corps has been monitoring your progress with great interest. Your adaptation of our theoretical frameworks has been remarkable. You have given us hope that this timeline might be saved after all. The 5 mysterious human vessels moved into the center of the Viridian formation, like sharks entering a school of fish. What followed was even more devastating than the battle at Kepler Station. Entire sections of the alien fleet simply ceased to exist as gravitational weapons reached across space to erase enemy ships from reality. Engineer Yoon Tae stared at his displays in amazement. Admiral, the temporal displacement vessels are using our own dimensional resonance generators to coordinate their attacks. They are somehow linking their systems with ours to create a unified defense network. Dr. Nari worked frantically to record everything her instruments detected. Sir, the advanced human ships are teaching our systems new techniques in real time. Our gravitational shields are becoming more efficient, and our weapons are increasing in power as we fight. The battle that had lasted hours was over in minutes once the Temporal Defense Corps joined the engagement. The surviving Viridian ships, fewer than 200 out of 1,200, fled toward the edge of the system with their hulls glowing from overloaded engines. Captain Lee's voice came through the communication system with what sounded like satisfaction. Admiral Park, the immediate threat has been neutralized. However, this victory comes with consequences that you must understand. Park settled into his command chair as the adrenaline of battle began to fade. What kind of consequences, Captain? Oh, new voice joined the conversation, older and carrying even more authority than Admiral Song Hana had possessed. Admiral Park, this is Fleet Admiral Kim Young of the Temporal Defense Corps. By successfully defending this timeline against Viridian invasion, you have created a new branch of human history. Your species will now develop temporal technology, much earlier than in our original timeline. Dr. Nari leaned forward with scientific curiosity, overcoming her exhaustion. Admiral Kim, what does that mean for humanity's future development? Dr. Nari, it means your people will face challenges and opportunities that we never experienced. Other species in this galaxy possess temporal technology, and they will not ignore humanity's sudden advancement. You will need to prepare for conflicts that span multiple timelines and involve weapons that can erase entire histories from existence. Park felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Admiral Kim, are you saying we have started some kind of temporal... Admiral Park, the temporal war has been raging for centuries across multiple dimensions and timelines. Your species has now joined that conflict whether you intended to or not. The question is whether humanity will use this new power responsibly or become another threat that must be contained. Captain Lee's voice returned with urgency. Admiral Park, we are transmitting full technical specifications for temporal defense systems and dimensional navigation. Your people will need this knowledge to survive what is coming. Use it wisely, and remember that every action in time creates consequences that echo across all possible futures. The 5 Temporal Defense Corps vessels began to fade from normal space as their dimensional fold systems activated. Fleet Admiral Kim's final words carried both warning and hope. Admiral Park, humanity has always found ways to overcome impossible odds through courage and innovation. That tradition must continue if your species is to survive as guardians of time itself. The mysterious ships vanished into folds in space, leaving behind a human fleet forever changed by their intervention. Park looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew and saw the same realization in their eyes.